Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game. So, tearing out a fun and exciting episode for you guys this evening as we're going to be going through MAME 0.275 again, talking about recent upgrades to the Konami Hornet arcade PCB, because people noticed in the patch notes that there was some file cleanup and other under-the-hood improvements on Konami Hornet mentioned, and while 0.275 doesn't really change much since the last time I talked about Konami Hornet emulation, it's gotten a lot better in MAME. This is complex hardware. I do own PCBs. It is a pain in the ass, and I don't really recommend that many people pick it up. So we're going to see whether or not MAME emulation for Hornet is keeping up, and whether or not I would recommend you play the games on it. Before we get too far involved though, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, we have a Patreon link down below as well. But right off the top, the game that most people probably want for the Konami Hornet is Gradius IV. It is an absolutely awesome shmup. It is hard as nails, and it goes full 3D compared to all of the other games that came before it in the franchise. Now I do have a Terrorburst PCB sitting in my closet waiting to get converted over to a Gradius IV or Gradius IV, depending on how you want to pronounce it. But I do love Terrorburst so much, I'm also wondering if I should pick up controls for that instead. It's been a very big debate for me. But as far as Konami Hornet emulation is concerned, you can play this game all day long, and if you're good enough, you can see the credits scroll. Now I totally understand this also got ported to PlayStation 2, so really not a requirement you use MAME emulation to play it. If I was going to recommend anything, I'd probably say either pick up an original copy for your PS2 or use something like PlayStation 2 emulation. That would probably be the preferred way to play. It would just be slightly easier, but honestly the arcade original is the original for a reason. It is an absolutely outstanding shmup that really dials up the difficulty even on easy mode. If you die, you're going to get sent back a little bit, and it's just going to be like that, but it definitely works and you can definitely play it. And moving over to a game that you cannot play at home whatsoever without MAME emulation is going to be Hang Pilot. You can get this game to run on a Konami Hornet PCB, but you have so many different weird controls that you're really not going to be able to actually play it with a controller in your home on real hardware. And that is because the Hang Pilot arcade cabinet basically emulated actual hang gliding. You had so many different analog sensors. Trying to actually rig that up in your house would be an absolute insane mess. The only way for original hardware when it comes to Hang Pilot is to have the full cabinet 100% working, and that's why MAME is so incredible. Arcade emulation really matters because for every game that you can play on any platform or buy a PCB for, there's stuff like Hang Pilot that literally is emulation or nothing else. Because these cabinets were super successful back in the day, and I haven't seen a Hang Pilot cabinet for probably 20 years now. If you know where there is one, do leave me a comment down below, I would be curious. But as far as the emulation of Hornet and MAME is concerned for Hang Pilot, it seems absolutely perfect per my memory of playing the game 20 years ago, which is obviously very hazy. All of the analog controls work, the dual screen setup works as well, everything looks and sounds great. There really isn't much to say here. Every once in a while you might get a little stutter in the audio, but otherwise you can sit down and play Hang Pilot from start to finish. It'll take you all of about 12 minutes. And that is why MAME again is so incredible. It keeps games like this from going extinct, because even if you can pick up a Hang Pilot PCB or switch the ROMs on a Hornet board to run this game, getting the controls injected in would be a very custom job, and only I'm probably stupid enough to even attempt it in the first place, and I haven't tried it, so you should know just how difficult and annoying it would be to do that. But as far as the game is concerned in MAME and Hornet emulation in general, it's definitely progressed a ton since I last talked about it. I did a Hang Pilot video maybe a year ago, and it definitely didn't perform as well as it does now. This seems to be completely full frame rate. So just so you guys know, I am using an i9-12900K overclocked on a water cooler, so I have a lot of grunt to put against these games. Now, a game that's definitely improved since the last time I talked about it is Terrorburst. This used to have some freezing issues in the first level, and to get to the second level boss, you used to have to wait like 5 minutes until the game would basically load into a new area, because there was a soft lock hang that you had to wait to bypass. Now in MAME 0.275, it is not there whatsoever. Everything works perfectly, the frame rate is great, as is the audio, and this is your first sound sample, 45 seconds, and I'll be right back with more games to show you. Now, those ricochet sound effects might definitely get annoying, but they sound exactly like they should, and the soundtrack sounds exactly like it should as well. And on the performance side, this absolutely runs every bit as good as real Konami Hornet arcade hardware, because again, this is the game that I have in my closet next to me. Now, I do need to caveat that statement again, that your results may vary. If you try to run this on a $200 mini PC with a potato CPU, you're not going to see these speeds. You want the best CPU you can get with the highest single core clock speed, because this emulation is cycle intensive. It takes a bit of grunt to get this running at full frame rate, but it is running here. And again, my i9-12900K is a few generations old now, and I still get the same performance. So if you have a modern CPU with good clock speeds, you should see the same thing. And if you've never played Terrorburst before, I can't recommend it enough. It is absolutely, in my opinion, 100% a hidden gem, and everything just plays perfectly fine. And I love the theming of it. These aquatic robots, you have different ape robots, even some Egyptian robots from space, clearly showing that some space aliens came down and helped build the pyramids back in the day, apparently, at least in the world of Terrorburst. And like I said, this was a game that you used to be able to play from start to finish, but the frame rate wasn't great, and in the second level boss, you'd basically have to wait for like 3 or 4 minutes because something would not load incorrectly. Basically, the camera would stop, the game would be running, but the next scripted event would not occur. Now, today, 100% fine. Now, moving over to NBA play-by-play, last time I talked about this game, I could get it to run for about 30 seconds, and that would basically just crash MAME. Now today, since the last time I took a look at it, it is again 100% playable. And it's not like sports games are the most coveted thing out there, but we're talking about arcade preservation and arcade history on the MAME emulation side of things. And if you don't know how to use MAME and you're just watching this, check my playlist. I have an emulation guide, an emulation tutorial for MAME emulation to make sure you can get yourself set up just like I am here. And as far as NBA play-by-play is concerned, graphically, sound-wise, all of the inputs, you would be hard-pressed to not think you're just playing an original arcade PCB. And this game is a ton of fun, and honestly, if you're not playing as the Utah Jazz and not using Stockton, you are making a mistake. Stockton is the best. That is the end-all, be-all of that sentence. But honestly, every time I talk about basketball games, if I can get a Stockton reference in there, I always do. But this game, again, ton of fun, especially on a party night. Grab a second controller, you can play against each other, you can play on the same team, you can do whatever you want, because in MAME 0.275, everything is working exactly as you would expect. Now, do be aware that doesn't mean everything started working in 0.275, it's just how I phrase it. But one more soundtrack sample so you can hear how this game sounds, and I'll be right back to show you one more game.
Key picks up the loose ball. Ostertag passes it back. 1 minute to go in the Key puts it up for the 3. Williams takes it away. Jackson from Williams. Stiff. Not much time left on long 2. 30 seconds to play here in the first. Ostertag picks up the loose ball. Ahead to Key. Time is running out.
I mean, obviously not the most exciting music because it is a basketball game, but the announcer sounds great, all the music sounds great. Really isn't anything to comment about NBA play-by-play, except it just works and you can play it in MAME today. Now, moving over to what is the Hornet's most popular game, and definitely the one it's most famous for, is going to be Silent Scope. Now, this one does not run at a full frame rate, and it doesn't matter how I calibrate the analog controls, the sensitivity is just way off the charts no matter what input I use. And that is because obviously on the arcade cabinet there would be a big mounted scope that you would look through, and you'd be able to adjust it on analog potentiometers both in the X and Y axes, being able to actually dial in your aim. So this is something, it does seem to be working. No, the frame rate isn't that great, and the controls definitely aren't perfect. So you can experience this one, but you can't play it, and that goes the same for Silent Scope 2. It's going to have the exact same control issues, which is a bummer because this is an incredible game, but of course it did get ported to other systems as well, and it's one of those things, setting this up in a home environment is a very difficult thing to do. You have a second screen in the scope that hooks up to a second GPU board on the Konami Hornet because it used 3DFX chips on the actual cards, and you could basically run these things in SLI just like you would a computer back in the day. So you have to basically spend $1,000 on the hardware and the actual scope just to be able to play this thing. So in MAME, hopefully it progresses sooner. The next time we have a new improvement, I will definitely check it out. But for me, the #1 improvement has got to be Terrorburst. This game used to be very difficult to play, and it didn't have great sound, and it definitely didn't run at a great frame rate. great. Now you can just sit down, load it up in MAME, and play it like you're playing an original arcade cabinet from start to finish, putting in coins, having fun, and watching the credits scroll. So as far as MAME emulation of the Konami Hornet arcade board is concerned, it is like a 9 out of 10 right now on every game, and on Silent Scope I'd say it's like a 5 out of 10. But we're done, I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.